All right, guys, so week 4, Thursday. So this is still going to be solving rationals, right? We're still going to be finding an x value that satisfies our equation that we're given. But this time we're not going to be able to cross multiply anymore, right? So now we're going to be adding or subtracting something like so, which makes cross multiplying not possible, right? We can't do that anymore. So what we have to do is find the least common denominator and make that denominator obsolete. So we will talk about that here in a little bit. It's not going to be too bad, guys, I promise. It is going to be a little bit more work than Tuesdays, though, so definitely pay attention here, right? So just to start real quick, quick review, find the least common denominators, right, of the following. So 4x and 12, right, 4x and 12. Remember, you don't always have to multiply them by each other, right? Sometimes it's going to be a little bit easier than that. So this least common denominator, right, the least common denominator of 4 and 12 is going to be 12. And then we have to have that x in there. So the least common denominator is going to be 12x. Now, what would we multiply each of these by to get to 12x, right? We'd have to multiply 4x times 3. And we'd have to multiply 12x times x. Right? We multiply 4x times 3, we get 12x. We multiply 12 times x, we get 12x. And that's going to give us our least common denominator, right? So you won't always have to do what we're going to do over here, x plus 7 and x, right? The least common denominator of that, they're not going to be able to multiply to get each other. You can't multiply anything times x to get you x plus 7, and you can't multiply anything times x plus 7 to get you x, right? That just doesn't work that way. So the only way to get this one is to multiply them by each other. The least common denominator, least common multiple, I said least common denominator, this should be least common multiple, sorry, but it applies the same way. Right up here, it should be an m. But anyway, the only way to get that least common multiple is just multiplying by each other. So x times x plus 7, right, and that's it. So being able to find that least common multiple is going to be huge in this stuff, right? You need to be able to find that and find it decently quickly, right? You got to be able to find that quickly. So here's what we're going to do. Going down to number 1, I'm going to change the color here. We've got to find the least common denominator. Simple as that, right? We're not going to solve anything here. We're not going to make this super complex. All we want is the least common denominator for all of these fractions, right? So what do we have here? What are the two denominators that we do have? Well, we've got x minus 1 as one of the denominators. Then we have x. Oops. And that's terrible, but it's okay. So our two denominators are x minus 1 and x, right? And again, this is going to be a lot like the last one we just did in the quick review, right? We can't multiply x minus 1 times anything to give me x. We can't multiply x times anything to give me x minus 1. So our only option is to multiply them together to find that least common denominator. So my least common denominator is going to be x and x minus 1. X times x minus 1. That will be my least common denominator. So I want this to be the denominator of everything if I wanted to solve this, right? I'm not actually going to solve this one. This one would be a little bit complex here. This is just a quick little application of our quick review to show you kind of what our first step is going to be always, right? So we just take our denominators that we have, find the least common denominator, and we're good, right? So let's come down to number 2, and let's apply that rule a little bit. And you'll notice that this one looks a little bit easier than number 1, and that's on purpose, right? So coming down here, we need to find that least common denominator first. That's always going to be our first step here. But the reason why we're finding that least common denominator is going to make, it's going to be a little bit weird, and I'm only going to explain it this one time. So definitely pay attention here. But the concept of it isn't too bad. So let's do this, right? So first things first, let's just find that common denominator, that least common denominator, which everyone should be pretty decent at, right? So we have a denominator of 3, and we have a denominator of x, and then that's it, right? So what's my common denominator going to be? Again, I can't multiply 3 times anything to give me x, and I cannot multiply x times anything to give me 3, so my only option is to multiply them together. So my least common denominator is going to be 3x. So basically I want every one of these values to have a denominator of 3x so that I can start combining and solving, right? So let's do that. Let's take this first one, and I'm going to make it red, right? So let's take this first one, 11 over 3. Now, I want the denominator to be 3x. So what do I got to multiply 3 by to get x? 3x. It's going to be x. So got to multiply this fraction by x over x. Remember, I can't just multiply the bottom by x and be happy. I can only multiply it by a factor of 1, and x over x is 1, right? So I'm really not changing the value of anything here. So that's what I've got to multiply by, right? Down here, for 1 over x, I've got to multiply that by 3 over 3, right? Because I want the denominator to be 3x. So 3 over 3 is what I'm multiplying that one by. And lastly, I have the other one 4 here, so I'm going to make that a fraction actually, so 4 over 1. And I've got to multiply that 1 times 3x to get it to be 3x, right? So 3x over 3x. And then what are my final values going to be? Well, let's see. 11 times x is just 11x over 3x. And then over here, 1 over x times 3 over 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times x is 3x. Oops. That's a 3. And then 4 times 3x is 12x. And 1 times 3x is just 3x. So notice how all these denominators are now the same, right? They're all the same. It's exactly what we wanted. And so we're on the right track so far, right? So let's rewrite all these. So the red one was first, so let's do 11x over 3x plus the second one is 3 over 3x. And we want that to equal 12x over 3x. Right, so now this is the part that can kind of make or break us right now. This is the kind of tough concept to understand. Hopefully I explain it really well. I'm going to try my best here, but if by some chance this doesn't make sense, again, I'm not going to go over this the rest of the video. It would take too long for me to explain this every time. But if it doesn't make sense, guys, obviously tune into some tutoring hours. We're here 8:30 to, 9, I think, 9 to, 8:30 to 4:30 every weekday. All the Algebra 2 teachers switch shifts and everything like that. So you can join one of those tutoring sessions, or you can get with your teacher via email, anything like that, if you don't understand this and you really want to, right? So all these denominators, right? Remember, we're solving here. We're solving. So we want to find what x value makes this equation true. These denominators are now all the same. So they don't affect the equation anymore. Sorry, I can't talk. But they don't affect the equation anymore. They become obsolete, right? Really, the only thing changing is going to be this numerator. Right? This is what we really need to be solving, because the bottom is never going to change. The bottom is never going to affect anything. No matter what I plug in for x, the bottoms are all going to be the same. If I plug in 2 for x, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6. I should be pointing. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6. So that over 6 isn't going to change anything. It's not going to change the values of the top, right? If I plug in a 3, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 3 is 9. So all these denominators will be 9, and it won't really affect anything, right? The only thing changing is going to be this top thing. These numerators are going to be the things that make or break this equation. So on that note, because we have all these common denominators, they become completely obsolete. We don't even need them anymore. So this just becomes an equation of numerators. So really all I need to solve is this equation. That's it. We just need to solve that top equation. That's the benefit of having least common denominators here. If we have them all as least common denominators, if they're all common, we can just throw them away. We can throw them out the window and only solve the numerators. Now, that is only if they are all common. Notice we had to get them all 3x in order to do that. You can't just throw away the denominators at the start, right? You've got to get them all to be common, all to be the same. Then you do this step. And then it becomes a very easy problem. This is just an Algebra 1 problem, right? So then I've got to get all my x's to one side, so I'm going to subtract 11x. Subtract 11x. So I have 3 equals x, which is my answer, right? And usually we like it written like this. So there you go. It becomes a very simple problem after that, right? So for the last time, I'll kind of try to explain it the best I can. When you have a common denominator down there for everything, it's all going to be obsolete. It doesn't matter to us anymore because that doesn't change, right? Only the top will be changing, so that's what we've got to solve. Okay, so let's go down to number 3, down here. And again, we just got to find the common denominator first. That's always going to be our first step, right? Always going to be our first step. So we have just an x and a 4. This one's going to be simple again. We just multiply them together. So our common denominator is going to be 4x. Right? And I'm going to go a little bit faster here, guys. If you want to do this every time, break it down into, hey, I'm doing colors here, so I put a red fraction here. What do I multiply it by? Solve. And then I got a green fraction here. What do I have to multiply it by? Solve. And then I have my purple or pink fraction here. What do I multiply it by? And solve. Right? I'm not always going to break it down exactly like that. I'm going to do it just a little bit faster. Okay, so just for time's sake. So here, I've got to multiply this first fraction, this denominator x, right? This denominator x, I've got to multiply by 4 in order to get it to look like 4x. So I've got to multiply this one by 4 over 4. The second one that has a denominator of 4, what do I have to multiply by that to get to 4x? Well, I just got to multiply that one by x. So I'm just going to do this just a little bit quicker. It's not going to change. The process is still the same. I'm just going to be a little bit quicker about it. And then the last one, we've already done an x, so we just multiply that one by 4 over 4 as well. So I'm going to do that a little bit quicker. Okay, so I have, oh, you know what? Let me get rid of that and make it a different color. Right? So this first fraction here, 5 over x, I've got to multiply by 4 over 4. Well, 4 times 5 is 20. And 4 times x is 4x. And that's exactly the common denominator I wanted, right? So then here I've got to multiply 7 over 4 times x over x. 7 times x is 7x. 4 times x is 4x. Oops. Then I have this last one. It's going to equal negative 9 over x times 4 over 4. Negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. X times 4 is 4x. Now again, guys, this is exactly what we wanted. We have all common denominators, so it becomes obsolete, right? We don't need them anymore. They're all the same. They're never going to change. They're never going to differ from each other, so they become obsolete. So I can get rid of them all and just solve the numerators. So 20 plus 7x equals negative 36. Right? Then I can solve. I can subtract 20 from both sides. That cancels. Negative 36 minus 20 is going to be negative 56. And I still have that 7x over here. Oops, 7. Then I'm going to divide by 7, both sides. Negative 56 divided by 7 is going to be negative 8. So x will equal negative 8. Right? So again, guys, all you're doing here is finding a common denominator, getting all of these fractions to have that common denominator, right? All these fractions must have that common denominator, and then you just solve the numerators, right? The bottom becomes obsolete. We're just kind of coming over here and scratching out the whole bottom. We're saying that we don't need any of that, and we turn this into its own equation. Make that better. Right? So, hopefully this is making a little bit of sense. I know this is a little bit weird, and guys, it's kind of hard to teach to you guys through a video, right? We can't interact with you. We can't see your faces, which part confuses you. I can't ask you, where did I lose you, right? Any of that kind of stuff. So kind of bear with us, and definitely join tutoring if you need tutoring, right? So this last one here, again, I have a denominator of x and a denominator of x minus 4. Now this one's going to be a little bit harder, it looks like, but it doesn't look like anything we can't do, right? So let's get it done. X and x minus 4, again, same kind of thing. So we're just going to multiply them together. So the common denominator is going to be x times x minus 4. That's going to be our common denominator, right? So again, I'm going to go through this pretty quick. So this first fraction, I've got to multiply x times x minus 4 in order to get it there. Remember, I'm just looking at the denominators. I've got to multiply this one. This one has a denominator of 1, right? So I've got to multiply it by the whole denominator. So x, sorry, I'm going to write smaller. Actually, let me see here. Hang on. Here we go. Okay. So I have x minus 4. And then for this last one, it's already x minus 4. So I just got to multiply it by x, this last one by x. Right? And there you go. So that's what I'm going to do now. This first red fraction, I've got to multiply by x minus 4 over x minus 4. So I'm just actually going to keep that separate. I'm not going to distribute that. I'm going to save that for later. So this first fraction is going to be 10x times x minus 4 over the common denominator of x minus 4. And I'm going to distribute that later, and just so I can save it for it to look a little bit simpler, and you're going to see why here in a second, right? So again, I'm not going to fully distribute the second one, so I'm going to add 3 over 1's got to multiply by x times x minus 4 over x times x minus 4. That one's going to be a little bit more complicated. Oh, this is plus sign. So I have 3x x minus 4 over x minus 4. Right, that's the same thing. Then, for the last one, I've got to multiply that one just by x over x. So that's what I do, right? I just have x times x plus 8. And I have x times x minus 4. Right, now again, these all have common denominators, right? So they become completely obsolete. So I could just get rid of them and just make an equation out of the numerators. So I'm going to do that here. So I have 10x times x minus 4 plus 3x times x minus 4 equals x times x plus 8. And that's exactly what we want. Now this just becomes a regular algebra problem. Now it looks a little bit complicated. We got to distribute, we got to eliminate some things, all that kind of stuff. But nothing that we can't handle, right? Is it a lot of steps? Sure it is, but it's not hard steps, right? So first things first, what I see we can do is I'm going to, no, you know what, I'll do this first. It'll be a little bit easier to see. I don't want to lose you guys. So I'm going to distribute these, and these. So I'm going to have 10x, sorry about that. I'm going to have 10x times x. That's going to be 10, geez, I don't know what's going on. 10, here we go, 10x squared. And then 10x times negative 4 is going to be negative 40x. Right? And then over here, 3x times x is going to give me 3x squared. 3x times negative 4 is going to be negative 12x. And that's going to equal x times x is x squared. X times 8 is 8x. Now, what's easy to see now is that all of these terms, all these values have an x in them. So I can take out an x. So I can literally just take out an x here. And what's going to be left? Well, 10x minus 40 plus 3x minus 12. And then that's going to equal, again, I'm going to take out an x from this side too. So I have x plus 8. Right, that one I really didn't have to distribute from the get-go. But these I did. Because now I can divide both sides by x. Divide by x. Divide by x. And I'm starting to run out of room here, but that's okay. So I'm going to eliminate these x's. Right, I eliminated those x's, and now all I have left, let's make this white. So I eliminate those x's, and now all I have left are these. 10x minus 40 plus 3x minus 12 equals x plus 8, because all those x's went away. And then it's just a simple solve, guys. I need all my x's on one side. So, well, first I'm going to combine like terms over here. So I'm going to combine this and this and get 13x. Then I'm going to combine negative 40 and negative 12. That's going to be negative 52. And that's still going to equal x plus 8. Now I've got to get all my x's on one side, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And I'm going to add 52 to both sides. So this will cancel, this will cancel. So all I'm left with is a 12x on the left and a 60 on the right. Divide by 12. And x will equal 5. Now zoom out and see all that work. Again, guys, we get the common denominator here. That makes it obsolete. So then all we have to do is take the numerators and solve. And yes, this was a little bit tedious, this whole work right here. Let's kind of circle it. All this was a little bit tedious, sure, right? But it wasn't hard. It's just Algebra 1 stuff, right? We had to distribute. We had to take out a common factor, right? We had to take out a common factor here, divide that out, combine like terms, bring all my x's to the left, all my constants to the right, and then divide, right? Yes, it's quite a long process, but it's not too hard. It's just stuff that you might have forgot a little bit or something like that, but that's not new, right? So yeah, hopefully this helped a little bit. Hopefully you guys understood it. And again, guys, like I said, it's not easy teaching on these videos. We're not going to get 100% of the information to you at all times. So definitely join tutoring, email your teachers, look up other videos. Like I said, Khan Academy is a good resource as well if you need just a little bit of refreshing here. But you know, just use your resources wisely. Make sure that you're understanding all of this stuff. All right. So hope you're safe. Hope you're doing well, and have a great weekend.